Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back for another daily angel guidance message. I have been up since 4:30 thanks to this one. She is feisty today. What do you hear? What do you hear? All right, go on. Let's get her out of here. I have to apologize. I know I missed yesterday's angel guidance message. So here's what happened. We were away this weekend, went up to the mountains to get a little rejuvenation and reboot the batteries. And I was working away on Saturday beside this beautiful waterfall when all of a sudden a spider landed on me and I thought, oh, okay, off you go. Went to flick it off. I had my phone in my hand. I was doing something on my phone at the same time. Went to flick it off and the phone went flying into the creek. Yikes. So obviously that's not a good thing. Had to immediately grab it and went into some swift action to try to save its life. Good morning, Tammy. So I'm just explaining why there was no message yesterday. I was without a phone for about 48 hours because it fell into the water. And I had it soaking in a bag of rice for about 48 hours, like I said. And so when I finally got back yesterday from my getaway, it was well into the afternoon. So anyway, long story short though, my phone survived, but it wasn't just because of the rice. I'm totally convinced it had to do with invoking my secret powers, if you will, which was using a very special prayer / mantra. And that's actually what I'm going to be talking about today for Takeaway Tip Tuesday. So if you're around, make sure you join me back here at 11:30 Mountain Time, which is 1:30 Eastern, 10:30 Pacific, because I'm going to talk about how you can turn things around when there isn't likelihood of a good outcome. Okay, so that's what the topic is going to be for today's Takeaway Tip Tuesday. But for right now, for this morning's angel guidance message, what's coming up is we have the vegetarian vegan card, okay? Now, don't panic. A lot of people, when they get these types of messages, they kind of think, oh my gosh, like really? That's what my angels are telling me? They want me to all of a sudden go vegan? I really like my steak, or things like that. So let me just clarify what this is really talking about. When these messages come up, often though, even if it's something you're kind of hesitating about, you may have had an underlying intuitive feeling or nudge to make some changes to your diet, and perhaps you just didn't really know what that looks like, or it just seems, like too big and overwhelming, because let's face it, going from a typical North American diet to vegan is something that, for most people, to do it in one fell swoop, it's a little bit unrealistic and it's not very sustainable, I wouldn't say, if you try to do it all at one go. But there is something to be said about making small changes. So it doesn't mean you have to go, all the way to that side and like I said, completely change your lifestyle. This can just mean simply adding one extra fresh fruit and one extra fresh vegetable to your diet every day, and try that for a week and see how you feel at the end of the week, right? It's small changes, but still have a pretty good impact, right? And then after the week is over, you can decide where you want to go from there. Maybe you want to try just swapping out, a meal where you would normally serve meat on a Monday and try meatless Mondays. You know what I mean? And that way, that has a big impact to our planet. Meat production right now is one of the biggest, causes for greenhouse gases, believe it or not. So, by going meatless once a week, we can actually have a big impact. I know you don't think it does, but it does. There was a really great article in National Geographic magazine where they did a whole year-long expose on the impact of food and food production, and it was really, really interesting. So this is about listening to those nudges. If you're kind of getting that, like I said, intuitive push to make a little change, make a little change. It doesn't mean you have to make a big leap, right? The other reason why these types of messages often come up is because the angels really want to communicate with you And one of the biggest barriers to us to be able to clearly hear it is the foods and beverages we put into our body. It has the impact of almost like putting cotton balls in our ears, right? So it's like they're trying to talk to you, they're trying to give you guidance, and yet you can't fully receive it because if you have regular amounts of, things like sugar, gluten, caffeine, what are some of the other big ones? Those are the big ones. Dairy, right? All of those kind of dull your psychic senses, if you will, and can create things going on in your auric field, which, then makes it more difficult for you to clearly hear the guidance. So if you're really thinking, lately that you would love to be able to tune in very deeply and to really communicate with them and to have a strong kind of back and forth, conversation with your angels and your divine intelligence, then, cleaning up the diet will help. I have to attest to that. So, and again, it doesn't mean you have to completely give up everything, right? But, like I said, small changes can have a big impact. So think about, like I said, adding an extra fresh fruit and fresh veggie to your diet every day and seeing what that does. Or maybe you swap out your typical morning breakfast for a really healthy smoothie. Maybe add some greens to it, or maybe start to juice things, right? That could even be a snack for you in the morning. If you're reaching for something that isn't super healthy, maybe you can swap it out for something that is a little bit more healthy, right? And so, so it's looking for those small changes. The actual wording on the card, just for those of you who are wondering, says fresh organic fruits and vegetables give you a boost of high life force energy, which elevates your spiritual frequency. So yeah, you have to think of your body as a car, and you have to fuel it well, right? You don't put maple syrup in your car's engine. So we really have to get around to that way of thinking of, what am I fueling my body with? And again, it doesn't mean you have to, give up the good stuff, right? But, think about more often what you're putting in. And then the other things are, once in a while treats, right? You just don't want to get into habit. Like a lot of people have a habit of diet soda. They reach for it first thing in the morning and they're drinking, gallons of that stuff. And, so could you change that for something healthier, right? If you like fizzy stuff, could you try kombucha or something of that nature, or even just regular, fizzy water with maybe some fresh fruit juice, things like that. So that's your homework for today, is just looking at some small changes that can up your life force energy intake. And the more fresh and processed things then you're going to be taking in, hey Lisa, welcome, thanks for joining, then that's going to boost your body, right? So especially if you have a health challenge too. A typical North American diet is highly acidic, and they've proven in labs that cancer and other diseases cannot thrive in an acidic environment. So the more alkaline you can make your body, the better off you are. And following a raw diet, if that's something that speaks to you, I can attest that it's amazing. A few years back, you might know this story, I suffered with frozen shoulder, which is some bizarre, I don't know, they don't even know what causes it. There's a theory that it's autoimmune, that your body just starts to attack itself. And I couldn't lift my arm up. Trying to even put it, kind of behind my back was excruciating. My mobility was deeply affected. And during that time, I tried a raw diet for a month, and I did it hardcore. And I didn't even put two and two together thinking that it was going to do anything to my shoulder. I just did it because I felt guided to make some kind of dietary changes. And my chiropractor's office was doing this challenge, and you could win a really kick-ass juicer. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to try this, right? And I also won the juicer. But anyways, so in the process of trying out that diet, I'm like, oh my God, my arm, my shoulder, I can move it again. And that was the only thing that I had changed. So, and they say autoimmune stuff causes a lot of inflammation. So when you have that alkaline diet, it reduces the inflammation. So, that's again something you can consider, especially for anybody, like I said, who is already challenged a little bit with some health stuff. But if you want to be proactive and not wait till it gets to that point, right, then you can think about, like I said, today's message, vegan, vegetarian, which just means thinking of how you can make some small steps right now to improve what you are putting in your engine, right? And the more fresh, organic, high life force fruits and vegetables you can consume, the better. And we are in the perfect time now because we're heading into summer. There's more of that great stuff available. It's not as expensive because you can get local stuff instead of having to rely on things being trucked in. So again, also consider that, buying local, supporting your local farmers, and also the environment for not having to ship things in from all over the place. So if you can visit some farmers market, even grow your own stuff, then, great. I see Pooja's here. Awesome. Hi, Pooja. Welcome. Good morning. We're just talking about making some dietary changes and why that's important. One I said earlier too is because your angels really want to communicate with us and communicate with you, but when we consume certain substances, it basically creates this barrier where it's a lot harder for them to kind of come through or for you to hear what they're trying to say. So when you clean up your diet, the offshoot of that is often way clearer angel communication. And so I was just telling the story about when I did the raw diet. This is kind of more hardcore, and I'm not saying everybody out there has to, do that. But what I realized after going through that was my ability to get guidance was just like, high def, right? It went from, I thought it was pretty good already. And when I cleaned up my diet, I just was amazed how much clearer that guidance was coming in. So that is another sort of benefit to, eating well, right? It's good for the body, but like I said, often when the angels send this message, it's not just because they want you to, give up the chips, right? And eat healthier. It's usually because they want to communicate with you, and you are making it more difficult because of things you're taking in. Like I said, gluten, caffeine, dairy, all those sugar, right? All those substances can really make it more tricky for you to tune in and hear the guidance more clearly. So again, don't feel like you have to give it all up. I'm not saying that's it. As of tomorrow, you're all vegan, unless that's something that really resonates with you. But can you make some small changes? Like I said, maybe swapping out the morning, whatever you eat for breakfast, to something like a green smoothie, or juicing through the day and having that as a snack instead of reaching for that bag of potato chips. Or, going meatless Monday once a week, right? As opposed to eating so much meat. So there's lots of different things, right? And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be challenging. And the more simple you make it, the more sustainable it's going to be, right? Think about that too. So you don't want to just, go gung-ho and it lasts 2 days and then you don't do it anymore, and then you feel bad about that and you're beating yourself up for it and you get on that shame spiral. Like, we don't want to be doing that to ourselves, right? You want to be able to feel good about what you're doing and keep it going. So on that note, I will leave you with that. I'm off for my run, and then be back here at 11:30 today. That's Mountain Time, which is 1:30 Eastern or 10:30 Pacific, because I'm going to share with you my secret power tool for what you can use when things are not looking good in a certain circumstance, and typically you would be expecting a bad outcome to happen, and how you can turn it all around, because I've used it and I know that it works. So I'm going to share that with you at 11:30. Like I said, that's Mountain Time, 1:30 Eastern. Invite people if you know somebody who wants to be in on this, because this is a good topic today, and it's more fun when we have interaction. I don't want to just be talking blindly to my phone. All right, guys? So enjoy, and I will see you back here in a little bit. Talk to you soon.